Hey everybody, Brian here from the Cabinet Joint. Today we're going to be talking about how to install one of these ready to install trash pullouts made by a company called Hardware Resources. But before I show the installation, I want to talk about the basics of this box because there are some things to know. First of all, the one we're showing here is a double can. This is meant to go in an 18-inch wide cabinet, which has a 15-inch wide opening. We can also do it as a single can, where the can orients this way, and behind, instead of having another trash pail for your recyclables, you get a little metal basket that you can put extra trash bags or what have you back there. That pullout is meant to go in a 15-inch wide cabinet with a 12-inch wide opening. The reason I'm highlighting the openings is because you don't want to go too wide. For instance, if I tried to put this trash pullout in a 19 or a 20-inch wide cabinet, the little ears that you'll see later on in the video won't catch your door frame. So you really kind of want to keep the size tight. If you want a 2-can, put it in an 18. Don't do a custom cabinet and go wider. We have other trash pails that will work for that, or other trash pullouts. If you're doing the single, try to keep it with a 15 wide and don't go wider. The other thing I want to bring your attention to is how this is made. It's 1/2-inch thick plywood, not solid wood, UV coated. The tops of the plywood here are going to be edge banded, but the edges of the plywood here, you'll see that in the dovetails. We're going to have a picture showing here to let you know what that looks like. So you're going to have some dovetails here, but you'll see the plywood veneers in those dovetails. This is not a solid wood container. Now we do have some other more expensive options that do have solid wood, and they don't mount to the cabinet floor necessarily, they side mount, but this is the most popular one because it gives you a great balance of value, durability, and price. Okay, so if you're trying to keep the price down just to store your trash and recyclables, this is the great unit to work with. It comes with a couple different options. This is the one meant to go below a drawer. So these are 35-quart containers. The 50-quart container version, the whole thing will be taller, your cans will be taller, and you'll not have a drawer. It'll go in a full door cabinet. Okay, the only real difference is the size of the containers. All right, so no real big thing, but you got to remember to order the right one, because if you order the 50-quart, it's going to collide. People often wonder, why would I want a drawer above my trash? If you talk to your cabinet coach, we can always put a platform, a fixed floor kit below the drawer opening, so trash odors and things don't go up. If you don't care about that, a lot of people will use this for a junk drawer. They'll just put, pencils and rubber bands and that kind of thing. That doesn't matter that it's over the trash. So if you want volume in your trash, get the full container one. If you want the storage for your drawer, go with the lower one. So we're going to plow into the installation of this unit and stick with us. Okay, so let's get started on our trash pullout installation. Going to kind of cover some basics for both overlay and inset. This particular cabinet we're installing this in is overlay. When it comes to inset, I'll describe some things that will affect you there. One point I want to make, don't have your top drawer front installed. This is a way easier thing to do when you have no countertop on and no drawer box in, because you can work to the top of the cabinet very effectively. I'm not going to be able to do that here because I have this at waist height, but I like to put these on the ground and work through the top of the cabinet. So make sure your drawer's out. Now, first thing you're going to do is, when this comes out of the package, take your rubber pails out, your plastic pails out, and the trash pullout box and the carriage is connected. And all you have to do is squeeze these levers. You can see these two red levers. Squeeze those levers and pull up if you have it laying that way, or if it's laying this way, pull forward. That will disengage the glide from this, and the whole box will lift out. You want to have this off to the side for the time being. What we're going to work on right now is just this. So, first thing I have to do, whether it's overlay or inset, doesn't matter which, is I have to figure out my opening. And typically, if it's a double pail cabinet, or trash pullout rather, we use an 18-inch cabinet, which is going to have a 15-inch opening, and I do. Half of 15 is 7.5, so I strike a little pencil mark at 7.5. Then I measured the carriage from outer edge to outer edge. It's a little narrower, so that ended up being 7 and I think it was 5/16 to the center of the carriage. I make a mark on it and I line up my two center points. That will ensure my carriage is centered inside the box. So I'm going to take the screws that came, I think they're taped to the bottom of the carriage, or they're in the box somewhere. You have 4 black, they gave me an extra one, which is nice. 4 black, almost look like sheetrock screws, and then 4 like aluminum colored screws, which are used to hold your door onto the box at the end of the process. So I'm going to take my black screws, and I'm going to put 2. First thing I'm going to do is pull this right up tight, because I'm overlay. This carriage gets pulled right up tight to the back of the front frame and centered. If you're doing inset, the front of this will be 3/4 of an inch back, and you can strike a line there like I did. Be 3/4 of an inch back, but you're still going to center it up. Because I'm overlay, I want that there, and that'll put the front of the box at the front of the cabinet. Since I'm overlay, if I had a 3/4 of an inch back, it would put the door inside the box, which is just what we want, inside the front frame. So I put 2 screws in. One, they have holes already there for you. I only put the first 2 holes, or first 2 screws in, because now what I want to do is make sure, if you can see this on the camera, this whole thing can be racking back and forth. And what I want to do is make sure it's not cocked. So I'm going to measure at the front, right up behind the front frame. I have 7/8 of an inch from the inside wall to the edge of the runner. So I'm going to do the same thing at the back. 7/8 of an inch, right about there. And now I know I'm running parallel because I'm parallel with that wall. You don't got to do on both sides, just pick one side and make sure you're running parallel. Now that I know I am, I can grab my remaining 2 screws and screw that in the back. Okay. Okay, so now my track is fully secured. Now what you're going to do is grab your trash bin box. This is what holds your pails. And what I want to focus on is these tabs here. There's screws inside the cabinet, inside this little box here, Phillips head. When you loosen them up, these will slide in and out. We usually take these off for inset. I want to stress, we take the screws all the way out and remove this whole bracket so my door is fitting flat to this face. And then we mount the door to that just by running screws through the drawer box itself. We find that these have to be pushed in so far to catch the framing on an inset door that you're barely getting these past the front frame. They just miss the front frame. It's just better to take them all the way off and run your screws right through the box. So remove those on inset. For overlay, I move them out 1.25 inches from the side of the box, slide them out, and retighten these 2 screws in here, and now these won't move. These elongated holes here and here on both sides, that's what's going to take your installation screws to hold your door to this box, and we'll show you that at the end. But I like to firm these up and get these set so I'm ready to go. So now I'm just going to push this in. We line it up just like we do balloon tracks, set it on top, and push it until it clicks. With inset, you'll hear it click because these plates are going to be inboard, and I can push this in as far as I want. With overlay, I'm going to have to, this is why I like working on the ground, I'm going to have to just kind of hold the back of the glide and push it till you hear it click. Okay, so now I have a drawer box that will go in nice and slow and then soft close. So now what our objective is to mount our door. And again, this is overlay, so my door is going to mount flush to the bottom. I'm going to mount my door and mount it so those screws come through that hole. So I'll show you that next, and I'll also walk through what you do if it's inset. So hang tight. Okay, so what I've done off screen here was just got myself a couple of little hand clamps. Strongly recommend this with overlay specifically. And what I did was I figured out my reveal with full overlay, 1.25 inch overlay. I want 1/4 inch on either side of the door, and I want the door flush with the bottom of the front frame. So I kind of hold that in place. If you need a helper to do this with you, it's a good idea. Get the door lined up and clamp it. You're going to clamp the door to the front frame here, and then at the bottom of the cabinet, I have it clamped to the front frame, and that's to make this door not move. So no matter what I do with the cabinet, it's locked in its final position once I've installed this. Then what I do, and we'll show this in a still shot up in the corner here, take my pencil, and all I'm going to do is mark the top corner, like the actual corner of the pull-out box on the back of the door. I'm actually marking the back of the door. What that's telling me is when I take the door back off and put it up here on my table and mount this to it, I know where the top corner of both sides of that box are. So I'm going to mark it, mark the left side, mark the right side, and now I'm going to take this door off, put it up here, and then come back and show you how to mount the box to that so I have my overlays correct. Okay, so what I've done here is I've screwed on the brackets. We showed that in the corner of the video here. So I'm all lined up with the top corner that I marked. So when I slide this into this cabinet in a minute, it should line up just the way I want with my overlays. What I want to draw your attention to is if you have an issue where things aren't quite lined up correctly, you have some adjustability on these glides. One is this one, the 2 levers here. will slide the drawer, or the door I should say, left to right. So your gaps on the left and right side of your door are not quite right. That will shift it this way. And then this little round knob here will push the door, or the drawer box, up off the bottom of the cabinet. So you can adjust your height that way too. It's not a lot of adjustability, maybe an 1/8 to 3/16 of an inch, but it's enough to really help you out of a jam. Your third level of adjustability is right here, because these screws that you put in were keyhole slots. So you can loosen all 4 of these screws up and raise and lower the door as necessary as well. So between all 6 of those, you can dial this in pretty good. So I'm ready to take my mounted door on my pullout, set it back into the cabinet, give it a push, and again, I'm gonna have to do the clicky thing with my hand. Get it to engage, and now I have a door that has a nice reveal. I'm flush across the bottom. I don't have to do any adjustments at all. And honestly, I didn't fudge that off camera. That just happened to line up perfectly, so I'm kind of fortunate. And when I put my drawer front on, I'll get my 1/2 inch gap here. So now I have a soft close, trash pull out, mounted. Now, what if you did inset? If you did inset, the difference is when I put this trash pull out in, there's no door on it, and you've removed those slidey brackets, you're gonna push the door front right into the opening, because it's gonna have a gap all the way around. Then get yourself some carpenter shims and slide the carpenter shims below the door. And when the door is, got the right gap all the way around, holding that door to the front of the trash pull-out on the inside, go inside and mark those corners, just like you did for this. Mark the corners of the trash pull-out, take the whole thing out, lay the door down, and now screw right through the wood front of the trash pull-out into the frame of the door. And I want to be careful to stress that this panel goes into this door about 5/8 of an inch, so you want to be kind of over here with the screwing. So if it's inset, you want to get way to the outside of the drawer box inside. And if you're doing these tabs, you want to throw those tabs out far enough that my screws are about in here like I showed you. I think it was 1.25 inches is how far you want that tab out. But overlay works much the same. The hardest part is just trying to get that gap with your shims. Sometimes it's nice to have somebody who's holding that and watching that for you while you hold that in place, so they can go in and screw, or vice versa. So just variations on a theme. Hope that helps. Have a great day, guys.